on! Hello? Hey, Mike, I understand that you've been meaning to improve your work performance at Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria for a while. I know the guy on YouTube, Facebook, and Spotify that does podcasts on college tips as well as video recording tips. You might get into the marketing department, Mike. This guy is super awesome, Mike. You should really check him out, and I think he's starting on his most recent episode right now, so I'm going to give this guy a listen. Meanwhile, have fun with the animatronics. Here's hoping they don't try to stuff you in a suit.
In a tight crunch for scholarships. Trying to get around the writer's block for your net video. We've got you covered. Welcome to Life of a Content Creating College Student. With your hosts, Wayne C. Hero 207 and Charlotte Waite.
And good evening, folks. My name is Colton W. Hurst, also known as WayneZ0207 on the internet, and I welcome you to Season 2, Episode 2 of Life of a Content Creating College Student, where we continue to fight against workaholism.
Welcome, Charlotte here, and Zoe is here as well.
Of course. So we're here at Season 2, Episode 2, and boy, there's some exciting changes coming up. And in fact, one of the exciting changes is my microphone is back to normal audio, and you're gonna hear why in just a moment. Some pretty exciting things have been happening. There's a lot of opportunity that is to be had here at Oregon Tech. A lot of successes, a lot of bumps, you name it.
Yeah, ebbs and flows, right? That's life. Every day, every day.
Absolutely. I think we can all attest to that to some degree.
Yeah. Would you like to introduce Zoe here with us today?
She is a returning guest from Season 1, Episode 10, if I do recall correctly.
Yes, I was there. It's great to be back on today.
Yes. It's so glad to have you back, Zoe.
Yeah, absolutely.
We missed having you on here, so...
Hopefully I'll be her again this season.
Yes, of course. In fact, we could use that because for a good chunk of Season 2, we're going to be battling workaholism.
Absolutely. For the
Yep, we're both in it. We're all in it.
All in it together. Just like High School Musical, right?
Yes, absolutely.
That's the singing. Unless you want it, Colton. You sing, don't you?
I do. I sing a pretty cool bass. I actually sang at Troy's birthday, in class for Troy's birthday. I sang a pretty mean bass. And many more.
Hey, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, well, on that note, wink, wink. Let's start off with our first question.
Absolutely.
What are two things that went well for the past 2 weeks?
For starters, the workaholism awareness posters are now spread out around campus. Everywhere you look. Steet, Owens, Irvine, College Union, PRC, even Simon Hall. There's a workaholism awareness poster in sight the minute you lay your eyes on a poster board. Odds are they are spread out around the Portland Metro campus as well. The initial delivery of the posters was what started the battle, and this is only the beginning of what's to come. Efforts are now being extended into this podcast through fundraisers, as well as potentially the Integrated Student Health Center and the Center of Well-Being. In fact, we have a link to the fundraiser in the description of this episode of the podcast. We are fundraising for Step Up for Mental Health, which provides mental health support for all kinds of issues, including obsessive compulsive disorder, which workaholism can fall under.
Oh, yes. What do those flyers look like? Let's paint a picture for our audience.
So, if you were to walk on OIT's campus, there will be a stop sign at the top, as well as a purple background and some owls splattered across the poster every now and then to reflect what each message within the poster is saying, such as the burnt out owl drinking coffee, the meditative owl, and the doctor owl.
Absolutely. They all have their own little jobs, little things they're doing.
Yes, the battle against workaholism will be nothing short of an amazing spectacle. Although this is a project, it will not be a simple film, but rather a campaign similar to what Hearst Entertainment has done from April 7th, 2020 to June 18th, 2022. Just as the starting points, myself, GL Viking Fisherman 63, and Matt DC 123 us simple hatchery workers formed Hearst Entertainment and did a fundraising campaign for Autism Speaks, which raised over $4,000. This is a little bit of a similar campaign, except not only is it fundraising for organizations that are combating workaholism, but is also redirecting fellow creators like ourselves, as well as across the internets, and students and faculty and staff at OIT to those resources should they struggle with workaholism. So it's not just a fundraiser, it's actually a full-scale battle.
Wow.
This really is a serious issue.
Yeah, and I like that it spans all ages, not just students, but also staff and faculty as well, right?
Yes, and even creators. Even though we can set our own schedules, it is a hobby, so we can kind of get addicted to that as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And for my second thing, if you might recall in my previous episode, I have the means necessary to order a new laptop that would allow me to provide better content for you all. And lo and behold, it has arrived! After the transfer, which was manual, by the way, I have to transfer everything manually since I had a bit of a malfunction with the LapLink software. Don't even need it, just gotta manually transfer what I need. Everything was moving so smoothly. I could hardly believe my eyes. After all these years, I worked and worked and finally arrived at what seems to be the prime moment in my career in a technical aspect. To have such a powerful laptop with a GeForce RTX is awe-inspiring. My work is about to be bigger and better than ever, folks.
Yeah,
That's great.
I mean, it's just astounding. I mean, I've seen students across campus that have GeForce RTXs. I'm pretty sure one of you has seen some, haven't you?
Absolutely. All over campus.
And how many of you can attest that you have something with an RTX?
What is that?
So,
You're talking above our heads.
So a GeForce RTX graphics card uses ray tracing to enhance the graphics of an image. And it also has special encoders such as the NVIDIA NVENC, which I'm going to delve into a little bit further in one of the questions later on in this episode.
all I know is mine has i9 core processing.
Well, now I can say that my laptop has it as well.
So, in the same boat.
All right.
So how have these things helped you grow, and what do you think you've gained from it, having these new experiences and new technology?
Now that the posters are well spread out and I learned more about exploratory research covered in the third question of this podcast episode, I have a bit of insight as to where I should target my market campaign for combating workaholism. More importantly, the issue was brought to light. People are now going to be a little bit more conscious about their study habits from now on because we recognize that real heroes and leaders are already home because they found a quicker way to get things done. Because we tend to study quite a while to understand the concepts in class when we should be working quickly and efficiently to understand them and therefore apply it to the real world, such as what I've done with copyright law, and which I will discuss in a further question. In which we've learned that in business law this week.
Oh, nice.
In the week in this episode was uploaded, we actually did learn about it.
Okay, well, speaking about some accomplishments, let's think about one setback that you've come across in the past 2 weeks.
Ah, yes, the setbacks. 2 words, soul-amped. On the week of Friday the 13th, I was slammed up with not one, but 2 midterms, a business law quiz and an accounting midterm.
Sounds like a really spooky week.
Yeah, because I had another quiz to do for Speech 321. My speech professor had to edit the quiz a little bit, and my group had to come up with an additional question, something I should have arranged to happen sooner. I felt pressure to get everything done that day and burnt myself out on Wednesday. Following my accounting class, I debated on whether or not I had enough time for coffee with Zoe and Shawnee, which Shawnee couldn't make it here today, after forgetting my accounting binder for the umpteenth time that day, and didn't pay attention to where I placed my laptop bag prior to the new laptop's arrival. It dropped, and 3 pieces of the top right corner of my old laptop busted off.
Oh no. Was it
The
still
casing.
full?
Yes, it still functioned.
Okay.
Just
Functioning.
just minor damages. As the meme would say, 'tis but a scratch.
From my favorite.
Luckily, 2 things happened that I am extremely grateful for. My laptop at the time still functioned, and I just had just enough energy to come up with a plan to tackle what I needed to for the next day and make a recovery on Friday. However, my mom had to send me to bed early at 8 p.m. that night. Although I made a quick recovery, this is something I don't want to happen again. Yeah, has anyone come across a day like that?
It's been so long this week, but today's my Friday, so.
Yes. Congrats, Zoe.
Taking some time.
Yeah, couldn't be more happy. So anyways, that being said, I did make a recovery and ace those 2 midterms, but don't want to make that same mistake again.
So sometimes when we are so overwhelmed and it just feels like everything's going wrong and we get in our heads, your mom is absolutely right to go to sleep, to refresh your brain, to be well rested and be able to have a fresh look on the next days.
Yes.
Yeah, so what are some things that you're thinking about taking away from this experience, and how can you turn this setback into an accomplishment?
Next time you have a group project, don't hesitate to have frequent contact with your professor and group. It could save you a bunch of time and burnouts. I had to learn that the hard way. And here comes our random fact of the day. Although a Major League Baseball game typically lasts around 3 hours, on average there are around 10 minutes of actual play time to count pitches being thrown and balls in play.
What? I'm not okay with that. That's
Watched a lot of baseball.
That's a horrible ratio.
And what a ripoff.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, if I came across a stream like that where there was only 10 minutes of pinball play time, I would be absolutely distraught.
I want to go watch baseball now and figure out what's taking up all that extra time.
Just sit there with a stopwatch and be like,
yeah.
They're just looking at calls, looking for signs.
Yeah. And then commercials.
Yeah, absolutely.
That killed me with sports games. Well, coming back from sports and going to college, what are 2 things that you did as a college student in the past 2 weeks?
The usual stuff. In accounting, we learned about debits and credit as well as the recording process. It was so astounding, and with practice, the process came naturally to me. And also, my family has a bit of background into accounting. My mom worked with Klamath Public employees, so she had quite a bit of experience, and that was before the merger. Boy, that was a mess.
So you got some inside knowledge.
Yes, and we're also learning about depreciation, deferrals, and accruals this week, which tomorrow I'm getting help on my assignment because, I made a mistake on one of the accounting sessions, one of the entries, and it's a bit of a mess to unravel.
But you're using your resources by meeting with your teacher to make sure you understand the concept.
Yes.
So that's great. You did great.
Yeah.
In Speech 321, we did a little quiz to assess our communication patterns in groups. It was quite interesting to say the least. Most of the results didn't surprise me one bit. One thing that did stun me, however, was I tended to tackle conflict with confrontation. I also preferred smoothing my way out of a conflict and trying to negotiate. In Marketing 1, we learned about exploratory research, buyer persona, and positioning. It was very intriguing, and I used my knowledge of exploratory research and buyer persona to design a survey to find out which minority groups suffered from workaholism the most. And I'm working to tailor a buyer persona to get resources to the people who needed my help the most. With the help of Professor Christy Weidman, my academic advisor and marketing professor, which she's still working with me on this, I designed a Qualtrics survey that allowed me to collect information on which minority groups were affected by workaholism and potentially distribute them around OIT. We haven't gotten to that phase yet, but we will soon enough.
Yeah.
Lastly, on business law in week 3, which is this week, I finally got to learn the one topic I was excited about and most pleased to learn: copyright law.
Yeah, love that.
With the knowledge I acquired, I should have an easier time disputing any copyright claims that are thrown at us. They won't target my content, especially projects, streams, and this podcast again. And then, this also goes with content creation. I became a DJ for K-Tech.
Wiggy, what?
Yes, I did. As a DJ, I made a talk show that allows me to inform OIT students, faculty, and staff about what's going on around the campus, as well as give some updates to the public as to what I'm producing for social media. Being a DJ was a nice way to get out of the office and do something that was outside of my general content purview.
Yeah, that's a great job.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that before I did podcasts, I did radio?
Whoa.
Yeah. Have you ever listened to K-Lad?
Hey, lad.
Yeah.
I think I remember listening to it as a kid, yes.
Yes. I got to be on that a few times, so I was very grateful. Then also a big 98.7. So Basin Media Active I interned at. Yeah, it's really fun. And I think K-Tech is a really great way if you want to go into radio to segue into Basin Media Active and their channels.
And you have a good radio voice too. So
Yeah.
you're getting great practice through this podcast as well as going
Yeah.
to the radio station.
I'd say that DJ is a bit more practice for me for everything else.
Right. So because you're getting practice through that, what lessons have you learned and how can you enhance your studies based off of the experiences you've had?
Exploratory research can be used to find a differentiated or concentrated audience and focus on that niche. It can also be used to better serve the community. Although it is not recommended to use secondary research first, don't hesitate to seize the advantage of exploratory research either. Despite being more expensive, it can be highly effective if used correctly to put your products or services in a favorable market position, especially with videos and podcasts, any official works under intellectual property.
I have a follow-up question before we move to one of your big questions. So you are looking at the minority groups that workaholism is affecting. Do you have a hypothesis of what minority groups you'll see the most stress within?
I think some of the LGBTQ plus groups and the neurodivergence will have a bit of a tough time with workaholism. They're trying to find their place at OIT and...
So they have a little bit more stress.
Right, and that was also conducted onto that poster that I made and distributed around the campus. That those minority groups are trying to discover where they belong and thus work to find that sense of belonging.
And when you find your sense of belonging, you're likely to stick around and hang out.
Yes.
You belong here at the institution.
Yeah, they don't need to work as hard.
Right.
That's an interesting hypothesis. I can't wait to see the research.
Me too.
Yes.
Okay, and now on to another big question. What did you do as a content creator in the past 2 weeks?
Because of the burnout on Wednesday, the week of Friday the 13th, I canceled the streams I planned for the weekend before this episode was recorded. However,
for you.
we've been making some more upgrades. I would like to give a quick shout out to Hunter Communications for their hard work in helping open TCP port 1935 on our fiber optics calyx router. I tested it out on my laptop via Ethernet and it works. The person who helped us did note one thing, however. The port is being forwarded to a specific IP address. That being said, I wish to give some advice. If your internet service provider has open port 1935 and you have IP privacy turned on, turn it off and make sure you're using a WPA2 to WPA3 security connection or a VPN. Otherwise, the port will not work.
Oh,
That's good to know.
yeah.
Of course, this may not be the case with you, but this is from my personal experience. Continuing before this recording, I used the PC Mover Ultimate software with fail to transfer everything onto my previous laptop over to the new one that I'm using to record this podcast. Yeah, the process was taking too long. So what I did was I halted that transfer, stopped it completely, and just manually transferred everything over through zip files and USB drives.
Can I ask how long that took?
Well, it only took a little bit less time, like about an hour or so to transfer a good chunk of the stuff, but
Yeah,
I'll
especially
likely,
with how much you have.
yeah, I'll likely have to download the rest, and then once I have everything on here, OBS should be working wonderfully. I mean, I've opened OBS Studio prior to the recordings, and would you mind telling us how impressed you were?
So impressed. The resolution,
Just pops right off the page. Great purchase, great purchase, great use of funds.
Yes.
Especially because you are a content creator, this will last you for forever.
Yes.
Investment.
Yeah, so how did the overall production turn out if you created any forms of content? How can you improve your content based off of the new equipment you've purchased and gotten? And then how can you expand your equipment toolbox?
If I expanded on it.
Right, if you do expand. And how does it function and how will it improve your content?
For my first day as a K-Tech DJ, I wasn't sure about the soundboard, but now I know what to expect. And you probably heard me do a good job before this podcast was released. If you tuned into 89.5 FM, keep in mind that this radio station is a local one, so you might not be able to listen to it if you're outside the Klamath Basin. I also learned to take your time if you're experimenting with new technology. You don't want to ruin a perfectly good broadcast.
Absolutely.
As for the new laptop I got, let me delve into the specs. Starting, this thing has an i9-13900H core processor which produces 5.4 gigahertz of electricity when at overclock speeds.
Whoa.
Yeah, overclocking is a pretty big deal. This is a spectacular processor for running multiple programs. My favorite spec in this laptop is the GeForce RTX 4080 graphics card. What the GeForce RTX does is it utilizes ray tracing to cast light onto objects through rasterization and enhance the graphics on any monitor or screen to ultra high definition.
So that's why it looks so good.
Yes.
Got it.
And it's also combined with the HDR tones. It is also perfect for video, audio, and photo editing, which can take days or months depending on the project you're working on. The best part is, when you're using OBS, this graphics card has an encoder known as the NVIDIA NVENC, which can actually be viewed when you enter the GeForce Experience application on your laptop if you have the GeForce RTX installed.
Do you?
Yes, I do.
You'll have to show us.
Unlike the regular encoder, what this encoder does is it takes the pressure to encode the stream that would normally go to the CPU and transfers it over to the GPU, allowing for streaming at higher resolutions as 1080p 60 and even 4K.
Ooh.
So we're going big on this one.
Yeah.
To aid the processor and the graphics card, this laptop also has 64 gigabytes of RAM, allowing for high-speed emulation of gameplay on Retro Recap live streams. Now I could potentially revisit Time Crisis or play its sequel on MAME, which its sequel was sadly removed from Mia's and Pia's so long ago. Time Crisis 2 was my favorite as a kid in the arcades. Like, it involved two agents that were trying to stop a nuclear satellite launch.
Oh. That's fun.
Yeah. Lastly, this thing has two 4 terabyte SSD storage devices, totaling up to 8 terabytes of storage. There's no way we're running out of videos to store now. In one sentence, this laptop is overkill.
So, this is not an ad. Better sure to sound like one. You're great at marketing.
Yeah.
I'm sold. I'm purchasing it now.
You can do like commercial voiceovers.
Yeah. It's actually available for $4,300.
Don't say that too loud.
A little out of my budget.
Yeah.
And now it's time for our quote of the day by Ernest Hemingway. The world breaks everyone, and afterward many are strong at the broken places, but those that will not break it kills.
What does that quote mean to you?
Well, to think about it, external factors can break us, and many of us become stronger after we recover from the brokenness of the situation. But if we don't break, then we suffer in the long run.
Yeah.
Have y'all seen where they fix broken things with like gold? And like and stuff? That's what they used to do back then. I think people still do it now, but like
a Japanese.
Pieces they really enjoyed, they would just fix them with some gold and just add some shimmer to it. So
Yes.
you didn't need gold for your computer because you're all good to go.
Yeah.
In case you break something else.
Right.
That's cool. Some inspo.
Yes. It's quite philosophical to say the least.
It is. Yeah. I love that. All right. Well, Colton, I would love to hear what college events or club meetings that you attended the past 2 weeks.
There are quite a few notable events. I will list a few.
Okay.
First is the Indigenous Peoples Day celebration. I walked by a table of an organization that helped Indigenous people get help for drug abuse. And there was also a series of short movies I got to watch with Shawnee that taught us why we celebrate Indigenous people on the 9th of October, as well as what we could we do to acknowledge the original people of the land. I've also gone to the top Super Smash Bros. And Mario Kart tournaments.
Yeah.
I got to participate in both. I was close to Mario Kart 8, but not even close to Super Smash Bros. I played Captain Falcon in Smash. I guess you could say I was blasted away.
But
Then I went to the Latinx Heritage Celebration Day, and those tamales were delicious.
I heard about it. Hurt and insulted.
You'll have to go to Aztec. That's where they get them.
Yeah.
That's usually where I go. Yeah.
Yes. There could have been more activities to celebrate Latinx and Hispanic heritage, but those tamales were delicious, as stated earlier. I also went to the Get Involved Expo this year and fulfilled one of the requirements for the Leadership and Diversity Scholarship. At the day of this podcast, which today I'll be referring to as tomorrow, I will be at the Leadership and Diversity Scholar Reception for the fall term, a prestigious event for those who seek to better themselves as individuals, finding their place at Oregon Tech, and for those who are willing to be accountable for their mistakes and put in the effort needed to mold themselves into better leaders.
Nice.
Doing great.
I mean, that is so important today, and I'm honored to fulfill one of the roles as student leaders.
Yeah.
And there's many more slots to go around.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, how well did this help you get involved with Oregon Tech or the Klamath community?
A 9. Although there wasn't much to do at Hispanic and Latinx Heritage Month celebration, the other events swooped me off my feet. It's also intrinsically fascinating to learn about all the different cultures and come to the realization that the more you learn, the more you become one with everything around you. It's a perplexing feeling that a good chunk of us can hardly grasp. However, this is just me being philosophical.
I was about to say that. It's extremely
pretty good.
Yeah, how many of you can express that sort of feeling when you learned everything that you did in your prior courses?
Absolutely. I think you're great at having such an open mind and being willing to continue learning. And so it's great to see all the things that you get involved in throughout the term.
Of course. And of course, I learned the course material to help apply them to my content, but any direct content experience I learned from direct experience with my work.
Absolutely.
Yes, none of the courses can teach me how to better set up a microphone or,
So you go into the sound engineering.
Right. Yes, all those that I learned through trial and error. I mean, there's so many of us creators out there that had to learn from trial and error. We had no choice.
Right. That's okay though.
Right. But speaking of courses, I actually got my quiz 1 in, and although it hasn't been graded yet, I'm pretty sure there's going to be some exciting results because I went over it with my professor prior to submission. He was more than happy to go over the answers and fill in any gaps that I missed along the way.
For what class?
Speech 321.
Which is that small group and team communication?
Yes, small group communications. Back to the survey. It was quite interesting when you took it, didn't you, Zoe?
Absolutely. Someone who I work with directly, but also about how we get to work together in overcoming the battle with workaholism.
Yes, it has affected so many faculty and staff members, and it has affected many creators. It's time that this issue is brought to light. And once the Qualtrics survey flow has been properly established with the help of some YouTube tutorials and my professor, I'm going to make sure that the survey is distributed across OIT.
Great. Gather the data and then do some analyzing.
Right. Once the survey is completed, I'll arrange a formal meeting with Dr. Nagy, my marketing professor, the director for well-being, Shawnee, and anyone else that might be further involved in this fight.
think that's a great start in helping the institution overcome the problems of overworking.
Because it has become a legitimate problem here at Oregon Tech, and it's a problem that needs to be addressed as soon as possible. It's been too long, and we need to solve this before it gets any more worse.
Support from senior leadership will really help in us continuing the fight all the way down the pipes.
Yes. Like this might be a full-blown war at this point. Like, I've seen workaholism cases all across campus, even amongst some of the staff that are actually helping us learn all the course materials.
And now we're getting ready for battle.
We're out of time, folks. Well, it was quite a show, to say the least.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to be here today.
Yes. And before we go, we have our scholarly shoutouts and creator credit at the end of each episode, as usual, for Season 2. For our first shoutout, I'm giving that shoutout to Professor Christy Weidman. She gave me some insight on how to improve the Qualtrics survey to improve the survey flow, created for exploratory research surrounding minority groups and workaholism, to ensure that it's working properly. Not only that, but she's so supportive of her students and smiles and laughs whenever she hears that her students and graduates are succeeding. The second scholarly shoutout is going to Troy Garrison, aka OGTJ. He gave Super Smash Bros. Tips to me, as well as playing such a good game in both respective Mario Kart and Super Smash Bros. Tournaments to keep me away from the office. He also gave me some encouragement and lifted my spirits on October 11th when I felt the burnout.
He is such an encouraging guy, isn't he?
Yeah, a few words can go a long ways. And then...
Kudos to him for the tournaments.
Yes. And today's his... And at the time of the recording, it's his birthday today. Yes.
Can we get a hoorah for their birthday?
Absolutely. Hoorah. And now for our creator credits. The first creator credit is going to Death Battle on YouTube. Although their logic is a bit biased according to some viewers, they have some of the best fight animations I've ever seen, from Cole McGrath to Alex Mercer to most recently Frieza versus Megatron. The 3D animations are just the bomb. It's just amazing editing all around.
Nice.
I'm sure you can do that on your computer now too.
Well, I could if I put in the time and effort, but I'm a gamer, not an animator.
Absolutely.
We understand.
Absolutely.
And then second creator credit goes to Brett Clements. Although content creation wasn't well known in the late 90s, he was the person who designed the original Nightmare video board game, which we're going to be playing on October 29th. Yes, we're going to have to deal with the Gatekeeper's BS again.
Oh, the Gatekeeper.
Yeah, we've been on a losing streak with him for quite a while in practice. This upcoming Atmosphere stream, is the day we put his winning streak to an end. Brett Clements is the man who brought Atmosphere to life and gave the challenging thrill of trying to beat an unfair host before the time ran out. He never hesitated to get that adrenaline running. It's just a shame the later games caused the series to go into a downhill mess that is the app version of the game. Like, the time is randomized from 42 minutes to 45. The game's supposed to take an hour.
It's just not fair anymore. Just keep it the same.
Yeah, and although there are spaces that help the player more, they could have done better in the challenging aspect, as well as the time aspect. Brett Clements, your work is forever missed among Atmosphere fans across the world, and we will continue to remaster previous games, stream them, and honor your legacy.
Every day.
So thank you so much for coming on, Zoe.
Thanks for having me again.
Of course, and we could use you in further episodes if you're not busy with your own podcast.
You got it. I'll be here.
Yep, we could use some additional aid in this battle against workaholism.
And I'm here for the fight. We're all in this together, right?
Yes.
Together.
So that being said, thank you folks so much for tuning in. Don't forget to donate to that fundraiser if you have some spare change. And remember, there'll be disappointments in life. But us humans the power to turn those disappointments into accomplishments. This is Waynesy0207, aka the Fourth Wall Breaking One-Man Army, signing off, folks. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Special thanks go to Oregon Institute of Technology, celebrating 75 years of applied learning in Plymouth, Oklahoma counties. This has been a fourth wall-breaking one-man army production.
Hey folks, this is Waite0207, the fourth wall-breaking one-man army here. I would like to give off 2 announcements briefly for a post-service announcement. First off, I'm going to be broadcasting as a K-Tech DJ on 89.5 FM in the Klamath Basin from 4 to 5 p.m. So if you want updates on the OIT news, as well as updates as to what I'm posting on social media, you can check me out on that radio station in that specific time frame. And second of all, the battle against workaholism will soon go into hyperdrive, which means we're busting out all of our forces, including the Integrated Student Health Center, into this fight. It is that big of an issue, and it cannot be avoided. The Integrated Student Health Center and the Center of Well-Being must be involved in this fight for Oregon Tech students, and I must do my part to help students, staff, faculty, and creators alike win the battle against workaholism. It affects everyone, not just our family and friends. It affects everyone, even a stranger you might see down the street. That being said, please give your support in these trying times. It's going to take all of us to beat workaholism. Thank you for listening.